In the back of the ute again. This time we're on the Sunshine Coast and I've got Laticia Gibson with me. Slightly different tact, but to do with sustainability. So she set up a company called Holgro and is also a founder of Blue Clay as well. So we're just going to delve in and see what comes out. And she also started her career with Channel 7 in reporting and sort of done other channels as well. So welcome to the back of the ute.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited given the calibre of people you normally have at the back here.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm a little bit nervous actually because you're used to being in this position and I'm going, oh no.
I know, I'm just chilling.
Very good. Okay, so where did all this start? Because of course you were just a normal functioning human being, as we think. And then something happened and you just sort of went, wait a minute, things are not right. We need to change the way we're doing things and that's the road that you went down.
Yeah. So to put into context, Holgro is about cultivating regional leaders in a very sustainable way for the long-term prosperity of regional Australia. And that comes from my passion for regional and rural Australia. I've spent 2/3 of my life living and breathing it. Very passionate about the people, the land, the culture that comes with it, but also very passionate about sustainable lifestyles. And that came about through some pretty hard life lessons where, you know, as a national reporter, as a high pressure job, living and breathing that every day, I was put under immense pressure that I guess just nearly broke me. And I'd always been a very fit, healthy, active person. Don't get me wrong, loved to drink, loved all of that sort of stuff that young 20-year-old reporters do who are living in the city, but knew that it wasn't good for me. And when some big life events happened, it knocked me. And I thought, this lifestyle is not sustainable. I'm not happy. I wanted to kill myself, quite literally. You know, I remember standing on the road at Rose Bay, crossing the road to catch the bus. Actually, I was going to walk into work. And I was like, if the truck or a bus comes, I'm just going to walk in front of it. And it was at that point that I realised, holy crap, this is pretty intense. I'm not in a good spot. I need to change something. And so I did. I booked a one-way ticket to London and decided that this lifelong dream of being a reporter actually wasn't meant for me. And I had to figure out who I was, what I wanted, and how I was going to come back to that sort of healthy mind and body that I knew was possible.
So you grew up in rural Australia?
Yes.
Do you think that was one of the triggers as well? Because I presume you were living in the city then,
Yeah.
were you? Yeah.
Living right in the thick of it in Sydney.
Right, and big culture shock.
Look, I've always been very adaptable. So yes, there was the culture of the city life, and definitely always had to be near the water. So that was my saving grace, being near nature. Had I lived right in the city, I think that would have definitely sent me right over the edge. But yeah, definitely a bit of a culture shift.
So when you got to London, you then thought, when was that sort of light bulb moment of, oh my God, I've got some clarity and I can go back home and deal with whatever? Or was it sort of like several years down the line?
Yeah, I think it's been, probably 2 decades worth of journey for me to understand, you know, all of that pain that I'd been through, all of those experiences and trauma were leading me to create Holgro. I've always had a really big interest in natural healing, in natural therapies, in nature, and just how powerful nature was. My great-grandfather, who was a farmer, was very into, you know, the energy that we get from the ground. He'd encourage us to walk on the ground barefoot and suck up the goodness. And so I've grown up around sort of hippies in that sense. And I knew that nature held a lot of the answers that I was looking for and had a deep, deep respect and understanding of that. So that definitely sparked my curiosity to look at, okay, how can I have this career as a businesswoman, succeed by social standards, but also maintain the integrity of, you know, that holistic, healthy lifestyle that I wanted. And just very naturally and organically, Holgro came to be through running different events, speaking to different leaders, bringing them onto sort of the speaking circuit of these events, and just kind of seeing and speaking to so many businesses who were struggling themselves with their own mental and emotional and psychological well-being. I thought, well, hold on, there are so many leaders out there struggling with this stuff, yet we're not talking about it in the business world. We're talking about numbers and marketing and advertising, and it's like, well, unless you've got your mental and physical health, how is your business going to survive? How is it going to be sustainable?
So how would you actually explain and describe Holgro then? What is it you specifically do?
So it's an online portal that is very much built around community and bringing in lots of different professionals to provide a range of services, whether it be, you know, the business end of things like numbers and advertising and all of that, right through to the mind and body, because I believe, like nature, there needs to be that balance. Otherwise, nature has an innate ability to return to homeostasis, and it doesn't matter what happens, it will get there. And that's life as well. So it's about helping people, giving them the tools to be able to, I guess, figure out their own groove, figure out their own balance, what's right for them, and to actually experience what balance feels like. Because I don't know, too many of us are encouraged to, you know, do the hustle, but we're not encouraged to actually find that balance, because that hustle is worn like a badge of honour, unfortunately.
Yeah. And is this specifically for business owners or for anybody?
Look, it was initially targeted towards business owners and large corporations that had teams they wanted to support, but you know, at the end of the day, anybody can learn from the principles of Holgro, and Holgro stands for holistic growth. For me, this is about unlearning some of the really bad things that we've been taught and brought up with. And you know, even growing up on a farm, the things that, you know, we pushed our bodies, we pushed the land, we pushed each other, and quite often it's what we had to do. You know, if we didn't get the grain, the seed in, or the harvest off, the crop off when it had to come off, or, you know, and it's heartbreaking, but you got to keep going and you got to keep pushing. And if you don't get money in, and the bank's on you, and you know, there's all this pressure constantly. If you see the, you know, you're always looking at the clouds to see what they're doing, and it's, you know, as Murphy's Law would have it, it always rains when you don't want it to, and then there's no rain when you need it.
Yep.
And that's incredible stress. And I remember growing up dreading the weather. Like, I hated hearing about the weather, because I knew that that meant there was going to be pressure within the family, financially, emotionally, psychologically. So I think farming in itself brings a lot of pressure into a household, that, you know, not to shame parents or anything, but I think there has to be more awareness brought into the effects that we're having on our children and younger generations, as to we need to be accountable to how we're practicing and how we're living our life, running our farm, running our business, and, you know, figure out better management systems, not only for our soil, but for in our homes as well.
So the connection then, when you saw me on LinkedIn, because that's how we met, you saw Farming Revolution, regenerative farming. Had you heard about regenerative farming before?
I knew about biodynamics, so understood the, you know, principles of regeneration, you know, putting goodness back into the soil, what you're taking out. I knew, like I said, around holistic health, have eaten organic where I've been able to, and understood that our lifestyles were lacking in that kind of area. And so, yeah, it was very much drawn to the principles of regenerative farming.
Yeah, okay. When you are discussing with your clients or people, or are you on one-on-one, or is it more like a group, sort of an event thing?
Haven't been any events the past 2
No.
years. Hopefully they can start again. Oh, look, definitely the plan was to actually start a regional tour, because in the regions, you know, we tend to miss out on connecting with the big events, with big opportunities to connect with speakers that are outside our normal sort of regional circle. So that was definitely the plan, and hopefully we can kick that off again this year now. But look, connecting people's always been a bit of a superpower of mine, and I see things in spider webs. I see lots of ways for people to connect and create this big, beautiful tapestry of thread. So for me, it's not so much one-on-one, it's definitely that online community that we're trying to build, and then connecting them in with other people for those one-on-one sessions where they may need that extra support.
So you're looking then, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to delve into this business a bit more because I still don't really understand it.
Yep.
So you're looking more for, when I say professionals, I mean people that know specifics about certain areas. So for example, for me, the regenerative farming side of things, or for someone else, maybe nutrition, for somebody
Yep.
else.
Area matter experts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're linking them with the people that are connecting with you so you talk to them initially and find out where their weakest links are, and then you point them in the direction of...
Yeah, look, we're very much at startup stage. So the long-term goal is that we create a community where, depending on where a person is and where they are in their journey, we're able to pinpoint what kind of support they may need at that time. And that support may change as their needs change or they grow or whatever it might be. So it will differ for every person, because I don't believe that every single there's not one answer or one package or one solution that fits one person, because we're all so different. That would be like going, here's a fertilizer and go put it on, like, without looking at that individual soil type and what's happening around salinity or anything like that. And I don't know anything about soil, so it's probably completely wrong what I just said, but do you know what I mean? It would be like trying to apply a blanket approach, and I don't think we should do that as individuals. And I think, you know, every single person deserves that sort of support, and half the time we don't know what we need, and sometimes it's just a matter of being heard and being listened to, where that other person can go, okay, well, let me tell you what I'm hearing back, and maybe you need some support in areas of gut health, or a counsellor, or a financial counsellor, or an accountant, or whatever it might be. It's sort of pinpointing who it is that they may need to be connected with.
And I just love that holistic approach, and it's in a slightly different holistic approach, because you're sort of like the catalyst to opening up those doors for that individual who may be thinking that everything's okay, but something's not quite right, because, you know, they're not functioning properly and things like that. It's a really unique business approach to finding out what the problem is, and then going, okay, well, here it is, so let's go down this route, but still look at the whole picture.
What I was sort of saying before is it does take a village, and so Holgro is like that village. It's bringing in that community of like-minded people who really believe in this holistic approach, or maybe not that they believe it, but they're curious because they know that the way they've been doing business or living life isn't working for them. So yeah, it's bringing in those subject matter experts and saying, hey, here's a supportive community who care and want to support you. And that's the thing with the people that we're bringing on as experts. We are making sure that they do align with our community, people first culture and our values, because that's super important.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any regenerative stuff or holistic stuff you can just sort of, I don't know, think of?
I guess for me, what I think is interesting is that so few people actually understand the effect their environment is having on them mentally, emotionally and physically. And that comes down to what they're experiencing at home, in their business and in their bodies. And that comes down to, first and foremost, what we're putting in our bodies, what we're exposing our bodies and skin to. And, you know, raising people's awareness to all of those things and tuning into your body is so much part of this process. You know, regeneration is about tuning into what's happening in that particular environment and adapting and, I guess, re-nourishing that landscape. And Holgro is like that. We're re-nourishing people from the inside out. Because if we want leaders of tomorrow to not be the kinds of leaders that we have today, we need to start looking at how we do leadership differently. We need to look at how we do farming differently and how we treat regional areas. And that comes down to the food we put in our body, as a very, very first starting point. If it doesn't have the nutrition that we need to sustain our minds and bodies, how are we going to be able to run a business and be a leader when our own state is so malnourished? Yeah. So really passionate about helping people tune back into their God-given talents of being able to be intuitively driven by food.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love that. I think we'll finish there because that was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And it's a different stage, isn't it? In the back of the ute.
Absolutely. Thank you.